Nice guy screws you over once, shame on him. Nice guy screws you over twice.
You talk about him on the radio.
Shame on you, Abby. Shame on you. What went down?
This situation has now happened to me twice with nice guys, and so now I've decided I'm only going to go out with a-holes. So,
But is that making the nice guy an a-hole?
Oh, so now he's turned into an.
Are you like in a nice, are they transitioning and you just happen to find them between nice guy and a-hole?
I've just peeled back the layers. So I need to go out with guys who appear to be a-holes, but are actually nice guys. So I've been raving about this guy on the radio for the past couple of weeks. It's the 33-year-old boomer who has no social media, is out of touch. And I'm like, he's such a nice guy. I just don't know if I feel like, that way about him. And so he asked me out on a third date. And I was like, maybe this is the date. Maybe this is the date where we kind of peel back all the layers and we discover that spark. And he also asked me out.
It's going to give you the zazazoo.
The zazazoo. And he also asked me out to a very expensive seafood restaurant. So I was like, you know what do I have to lose here?
Helps.
That always helps. I'm like, at least I'm going to get a nice meal out of this. So we go to the restaurant. We're having a great time, going back and forth, having nice banter. And then he's like, let's go get drinks. I'm like, sweet. Let's go get drinks after this. So we get in the Uber and he takes me back to his apartment. And I'm like, I thought we were going to get drinks. And he's like, I'm going to call us another Uber from the roof of my apartment. Let's go upstairs to my apartment. And I'm like, all right, well, we're already here. So we go up to the roof and I'm like, you going to call that Uber? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to call the Uber. And I'm kind of looking at him. I'm like, call the Uber. So he calls the Uber. We go get drinks. And then
was there a reason to go to the roof? Was it a nice view?
To be fair, I had looked it up on Zillow before. I was like, I don't necessarily need to see your apartment, but whatever.
Because I've already looked at it online.
I already know how much you paid in property taxes.
I've been in your living room.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I took the 360 tour.
360 view.
What's there to see?
Would it be so funny if you went into his apartment and be like, I got to use the bathroom, and he's about to tell you where it is, and you just walk to it?
I got it. Yeah, I know where it's at.
I know it's behind this door. I know where everything is. So then we're shutting down the bar, and honestly, we're still having a great time, so I'm not really even thinking about how I'm getting home. He calls an Uber, and I'm like, I'm going back to the apartment. So we go back to the apartment. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call an Uber so I can go home. And he's like, no, call it from my apartment. Let's have one more glass of wine. I'm like, no, I'm going to call one more glass of wine. I'm like, okay. So we get up to his apartment, and of course I know what's coming. And for context, at this point, we have not had a romantic touch ever. We're still very much in that platonic feeling. I kind of feel like we're just friends, but I like hanging out with you. And I know I'm going to get up to that apartment and he's going to throw a Hail Mary. So we get up to the apartment and I'm distracting myself with this cat. I'm like, oh, your cat's so nice, as I call my Uber. And then all of a sudden it goes from negative 30 on the Zazazoo scale to 120. He is up in my grill trying to make something happen. He's like, you don't want to make out with me? You don't want to make out with me? And I'm like, this is now the second time this has happened to me, where a guy has paid for a very expensive dinner and it all of a sudden starts to feel like because you spent $300 on a dinner for me, I feel like you now expect something from me. I was having flashbacks up in his apartment of something that had happened to me a couple months ago where the same thing happened. I got asked out to a very nice dinner and it was a very quick switch. There was no chemistry before. And then all of a sudden he thinks he's going to throw a Hail Mary and take me to bed. And I was not into it at all. I was I was going to break things off after this date. And I kept telling him, I don't want to paint this guy as some sexual predator.
Got it.
But I was very much not into it. I was like, no, I want to go home. And he kept pressing and pressing and pressing.
Ugh.
And it really bothered me because I've dated some guys who I really thought were a-holes in the beginning. And every time I've drawn a boundary, they were like, actually, you know what? I respect your boundaries. Even if it was 4 a.m. at my apartment, they were going home. And it really frustrated me because I've been raving about how nice of a guy this is. And all of a sudden we ended on such terrible, terrible terms. He texted me when I got home. He's like, I think we're just on different wavelengths. I'm like, you think, buddy?
Yeah.
And then I was like, you're right. And he was like, your loss. And I was like,
oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nuanced perspective, my guy.
Nice of you to find out before it was too late, though.
I know.
I'm glad you're sharing this, though, because I want men, women, all to hear this. I don't care what transpired back to the date. I don't care if you thought you were and now you're naked in the apartment and all of a sudden you change your mind. If you don't want to do it, it needs to be respected. End of story. I don't care what fancy dinner you went to. I don't care what you were wearing. I don't care if you went back up to the apartment. I don't care if you started taking layers of clothes off. The minute you're like, I don't want to do this, that's it. Well, there's no wiggle room there. And I think people so often are like, but you went out to that nice dinner and, you were wearing that low cut top and you were wearing that short dress and you went up to his apartment and you took your clothes off. I don't care. Once I decide this isn't right, I don't want to do this, that's it. You got to respect it.
And I agree. And this is why I said that time, like sometime I'm always kind of taken aback by people who are so nice, because some people are just genuinely nice people. But a lot of that times the nice is a cover up, right? Because you are being this nice and this approachable because you do want something and you believe that this is what's going to get you there. So when it doesn't, now all of a sudden you feel like somebody owes you something. So you have to be careful with the nice people just as much as you have to be careful with everybody else.
Exactly. And I put out a podcast episode today for my podcast where we talked about controlling partners. And I was telling her, I was like, I think I went on this date this weekend that showed me that this guy would be a controlling partner because I felt very much manipulated by the situation. And she's like, you did the exact right thing. You saw an opportunity to draw a boundary and you got out, and I never have to see this guy again.
Good for you, babe.
I know. A-holes only now.
The Bert Show.
Hey, did you like what you just watched? Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a nice comment, if you will.